Thank you everyone for joining us today, especially after what's been such an unbelievably trying week for Oregonians. Our hearts go out to everyone. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see the devastation and the challenges that people are facing as people lose their homes, their livelihood, or otherwise just have their lives upended. As the fires are continuing to burn, the Employment Department is adjusting in every way that we can to help make sure that we can continue serving Oregonians and to meet the new urgent needs that many people are facing. We're looking out for the safety and well-being of our own employees, and that is trying when the air quality is as bad as it is from all of the fires. Last week, we had to temporarily close a few of our offices due to high winds, wildfire smoke, and evacuation orders. Right now, all of our offices are open. We're monitoring the air quality in our offices. We're following OSHA standards and recommendations for employee safety, and we're responding to questions and concerns from our employees. We've brought in industrial HEPA air scrubbers to filter the air and to keep it as clean as possible. We started doing that with our Wilsonville Contact Center last Thursday. We now have about 59 scrubbers in place throughout our offices throughout the state, and we have many more scrubbers that are on the way to be turned on starting tomorrow. We contracted with a business to conduct indoor air quality tests yesterday and today. And while we continue to make sure that all of our workspaces are safe for our employees, we continue to see some delays, and those delays will unfortunately continue. With our offices open, we still have a number of employees that have been directly impacted by the fires, so they're not able to work. We've also had power and network issues related to the fires and the weather, which has also slowed us down a little bit. We continue to monitor our workspaces and to work with our staff to make sure that they're safe and healthy so that we can help everyone else. We're also trying to meet the specific needs that people have now because of the fires. For people that have been impacted by the wildfires, we're doing everything that we can to help them out as quickly as possible. We're going through the claims that we have to identify people who we know were from the areas most heavily impacted by the fires so that we can prioritize the work on their claims. If somebody has to evacuate or was otherwise impacted by the fire, they need to change how they're getting their benefits paid. They need a replacement Relia card or something like that. We have added an option on our Contact Us form so people can tell us that they were impacted by the fires. There's an option for I evacuated due to the fires and I need help on my claim. We're prioritizing those messages and making sure that we resolve issues for people impacted by the fires as quickly as we can. People who had to evacuate should also make sure to change their mailing address and other contact information with us. You can do that through our online claim system. Even if people are getting payments by direct deposit or through a Relia card, we do sometimes have to communicate with people by mail. So it's important that people make sure we have good contact information in case we do need to get in touch with them. And for people who are newly out of work because of the fires, late yesterday, a federal disaster declaration made additional FEMA relief available in the form of disaster unemployment assistance, or DOA. We were already preparing ourselves to get DOA benefits ready and able to be paid as quickly as possible. This will be a pretty manual process on our part. This is a program that is only rarely used, but we anticipate being able to start making DOA payments to people as early as next week. We're updating information about how people can get benefits, particularly related to the fires, and we will continue to do that on our website. If you go to our website, there's a section that says Oregon Wildfires Frequently Asked Questions, where we'll continue to update information. While we're working to get the disaster unemployment assistance benefits out as quickly as possible, it does look like we will still be able to remain on track for the lost wages assistance. Last Friday, we launched the self-certification process. This is a step that FEMA requires so that people can certify that they are unemployed or underemployed because of COVID-19. For people who were receiving regular unemployment, PEUC, or EB benefits, they do need to do the self-certification. That's now available in English and Spanish online. If people are receiving PUA benefits, they do not need to do that certification. People seeking the 6 weeks of additional $300 per week benefits can go to the online claim system and scroll down to the option that says Lost Wages Assistance. If people need additional assistance in another language, they can contact us by email at oed_languageaccess@oregon.gov or call our language hotline at 503-606-6969. And as I mentioned, we're still on track to meet our preliminary estimate for being able to start getting those lost wages assistance benefits to people by the end of September. I did want to provide an update on the implementation of Senate Bill 1701. That was a bill that was passed during the second special session of the legislature this year and provides that for people who are earning less than their weekly benefit amount, they can now earn up to $300 per week before it starts impacting their weekly benefits. Originally, we anticipated getting this work done by mid-December. As we have been working on the other implementations like lost wages assistance, when there have been brief periods while we're waiting for testing to be done or to get guidance about the program requirements, our IT team has been able to focus in on parts of Senate Bill 1701 and have been able to make much quicker progress than anticipated. That means that we actually will be launching this either today or tomorrow. The bill is effective starting with the week of September 6th through 12th. So for people claiming on an ongoing basis that nothing else needs to be done, for people who are owed retroactive benefits for last week, people don't need to do anything. We will be reviewing those past weeks and making manual adjustments. It will take us some time to get through those manual adjustments as we do the other work and continue to implement new programs. Last week, we issued a notice of intent to award a contract for our unemployment insurance modernization project to Fast Enterprises. This is an exciting step forward. It's continuing the good momentum that we've been building on since 2016. And it's exciting to see this continuing to go even as we deal with these ongoing crises. And I do want to be very clear that while we're continuing to make and build on that good progress for modernization, that will not in any way detract us from our focus on getting people their benefits. We have separate teams working on this, and we're not going to let the short-term urgent need to get everyone their benefits as soon as possible be impacted by the equally important longer-term goal of making sure we have a robust system to serve Oregonians in the future. We'll continue to provide updates as we make progress with negotiations and the rest of the modernization project. And you can find lots of information about that project on the modernization section of our agency website. The unemployment rate for August was recently announced at a 7.7%. That's a significant drop, which is good. It's down from the highest rate that we had seen in Oregon ever, which was 14.9% in April. Well, that's wonderful improvement of the economy. It's still more than double what our unemployment rate was back before the COVID-19 closures. So we still have a long way to go for the economy to recover, and there's still a really large number of people needing assistance and suffering through these difficult economic times. And that 7.7% figure does not reflect the impacts from the current wildfires. We'll continue to report on that. It's hard to say how much of that impact will be captured in next month's data, and there will be very different impacts in different parts of the state and different industries from the fires themselves and from the poor air quality. So we'll continue to report out as data becomes available. I've talked before about how we're continuing to make our website and other resources available in more languages. Our main website regarding unemployment-related benefits, unemployment.oregon.gov, is available in more languages. It's now available in 12 languages. So besides English, it is in Spanish, Vietnamese, Russian, Hmong, Min, Romanian, Khmer, Simplified Chinese, Arabic, Somali, and Korean. We've been having weekly webinars, and we do have one tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's open to the public. People can register through our social media channels, and we will again post that on social media after it's done. The webinar tomorrow is about benefit extension programs. So that's the extended benefits and the pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, or PEUC programs. We originally were going to have that webinar last Thursday and had to postpone it to this week because of the fires. To share some of the numbers that we've been talking about now for several months, between March 15th and September 12th, 566,100 claims for regular unemployment insurance benefits have been filed. That compares to about 71,000 filed during the same time period last year. We continue to be current on processing these claims. There's just between 1,000 and 1,100 of those that have not yet been processed, and those are ones that have been filed very recently. For pandemic unemployment assistance, we've paid $170 million to over 54,000 people, and we continue to work on the people who are waiting for either regular unemployment or pandemic unemployment assistance because of issues that are holding up their claims, such as adjudication. In total, between March 15th and September 12th, the Employment Department has paid out $4.4 billion in benefits, representing several years' worth of benefits since this pandemic began. I did want to share some sad news, which is that we have had another colleague who tested positive for COVID-19. Following our protocol, we have notified employees who worked in that location, and we've also reached out to county health officials. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank our employees for continuing to follow social distancing guidelines and the other protective protocols for face coverings to keep themselves and their colleagues safe, while also stepping up to do an immense amount of vital work each and every day. We continue to offer our employees resources and support to make sure they feel safe while at work, have what they need to be successful in their jobs, and also to tend to their well-being. We've been talking about adjudication as one of the big barriers that we're continuing to work on. This will continue to be probably one of the biggest pain points for a period of time, but we are making progress. We've hired hundreds of new adjudicators. They are getting up to speed and ramping up in their work. And the work that's being done by Epic, a contractor that we engaged with to do some pieces of the adjudication process, is going well also. And that's helping our employees get claims adjudicated more quickly than ever before. I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. Know how difficult this is, and that on top of the already existing economic troubles, the added disasters from the fires are just incredibly painful for so many people. The Employment Department is here to be a resource, and we will continue to be one during this new and difficult time. Our hearts really go out to everyone that's impacted, and we're doing everything that we can to help them and to be here for them. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Momentarily, we will open up the lines to take questions from reporters in the order that they RSVP'd. Remember, one question and one follow-up question. And I know, the last couple of weeks, we have been having a little bit of technical difficulties with those who are joining us by phone only. And I believe if you're on the phone and you're trying to speak, when I call on you, you may need to hit *6 in addition to your mute button to unmute yourself. So let's see here. First, we are going to hear from Peter Wong with the Portland Tribune.
Hi, David. Do you have any additional observations on how the wildfires are complicating the agency workload? And given that there are still disruptions going on, how long do you expect that to last? Given that, of course, the recovery is going to take an extended period, even after the fires are under control.
It's really hard to say in terms of how it's impacting what we're doing. We're, of course, having those impacts that I talked about of having to look out for the well-being of all of our employees. So that included, temporarily shutting offices, quickly getting kind of industrial HEPA air scrubbers to clean the air in our locations so that they were closed for just a very brief period of time and we could provide a safe working environment. We do have a number of employees that I mentioned that are having to deal with the impacts of this themselves, and that certainly slows things down. It's really hard to predict how long the impacts will go on. Some of the fires are of course, still burning and will be for some time. We're hoping that the worst of this is over. We've had some discussions in the past. I think I've been asked questions about what would happen if there was another surge in claims, and I had shared that I think the department, well, we don't want that we have learned a lot in our position to respond much more quickly. I do think that's the case, and I think that's borne out now as we're already well on our way to being able to pay those disaster unemployment assistance benefits. But it is, again, another complication for us also trying to make sure that we're prioritizing the people impacted by the fires while we're still working to get benefits out to people who have been waiting. So it certainly is a complication that nobody needed, but everyone here is just so focused on doing what we can to help people that it was one more challenge for us to step up and try to address, and we'll keep working on it as long as it takes.
Okay, thank you. One small technical question on the lost wages assistance certification. Does that also apply to people on the work share programs whose paperwork is normally done by the employer on behalf of the employees of those companies?
Sure, that's a great question. And those people getting work share benefits do need to do the self-certification. But for exactly the reason you mentioned, that normally a lot of the filing for those workers is done by their employers, we're working with the employers on WorkShare to get that information. So we're already doing that. We're working with the employers. The individual workers shouldn't need to contact us. And if there is some particular need for follow-up, we will reach out to those impacted workers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Next is Mike Rogoway with the Oregonian.
Hey, David. I wondered I realize the department has a sort of quantitative process for selecting the modernization vendor, but can you tell me qualitatively what you learned from past experiences elsewhere, the Midas system and the issues they had in Washington, and whether the company is doing things differently or instructing states differently based on experiences it's had there?
Sure, and I'll speak a little generally because we're not through the procurement process. And the last thing I want to do is jeopardize the procurement process that we're in. So I can speak generally about some of the things that we've been focused on throughout the procurement process. And this is with all of the vendors that we've looked at. One of the guiding principles the agency had going in was that we know how important it is to be successful. And we didn't want to be trying to do something so creative that there was much increased risk of it not being successful. Some states had tried that and had great visions of what they wanted to do, but it was so different from things that had already been done that there were a number of states that ended up with just failed projects. So we were looking for solutions that had been successfully implemented in other states. That being said, each state is different. The unemployment insurance systems have some similarities, but some differences. And it's such a complex set of systems that every implementation has challenges that have to be worked through. We've talked to a number of states who used all the different vendors, and that was part of our process, was to really look at what went well and what was more troubling in different states. Some of the key things that we've learned is how important it is to think of the customer's experience up front and to plan for that. And I think, frankly, a lot of the things that we've been talking about and that we've been hearing as concerns during this pandemic were some of the things that we built into our requirements in the process. Also making sure that we're not just building a system, but that we're bringing all of our employees along, the people that are frontline experts, to help them design it because they see what the work is each day and what the challenges are, and to make sure that we're preparing them so that as we go live, it's as smooth as possible. In every state, there's lots of decisions that have to be made, and we certainly have learned a lot and will continue to do research to find out from this pandemic, which is kind of a never before seen stressor on unemployment systems, which of our requirements need to be adjusted, or if there's new things that we need to take into account before we sign that final contract.
Right. And just a quick follow-up. The last cost estimate I've seen for the total modernization project, I think, was in January. It put it between 80 million and 123 million. Is that what's the cost estimate range right now for the total modernization project?
So I don't have it in front of me. What you're saying sounds familiar. We haven't submitted a new one yet because really what we need to do now are those in-depth negotiations with the vendor. It's both challenging to come up with a cost estimate before you can sit down and go through the more detailed requirements and plan with a potential vendor. And that's something that we kind of work through iteratively with the stage gate process, where there's ranges. And for the stage gate process that we're at, the expectation is that we have kind of a plus or minus 50% range, which is what we have. By the time we get into signing a contract and starting the work, it's a much narrower range. So we expect to have more information as we go through the negotiation process, but it's really hard to give anything more definite today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next, we are hearing from Reina with the Daily Emerald. Reina Harwood with the Daily Emerald.
Hi, David.
Hello.
So I was going to ask today, is there any pieces of advice that you could give to students and young adults?
Reina, I think you got muted there, so I missed most of what you were saying.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Hi. Okay, so I wanted to ask, are there any pieces of advice that you could give to students and young adults on how to save their money once their unemployment benefits begin to end?
That's a really great question and a tough one. In terms of saving it, I think it depends so much on the individual circumstances. We do try to offer all kinds of resources besides the benefits themselves. So there will be some extension programs, and I encourage you to and everybody in that situation to contact our look at our website, unemployment.oregon.gov, to see other extension programs that may become available. We try to connect people to other resources also. Our agency also does a lot of work with helping people, including students, get training, find career advice and opportunities that can help them become employed. So working with those WorkSource Oregon centers and the resources can be a valuable tool to help people find employment and find other resources to help them through those difficult times. We have a number of general resources. 211 provides a lot of links to other community resources, and that's something for everyone that we point to. Unfortunately, sometimes the benefits do run out, or people may just not be eligible, and we do our best to try to at least point people in the direction of other possible resources.
Okay, thank you so much. And for a follow-up question, I was going to ask, is there anything right now that is being worked on to help gear students and help prepare them for the fall term that's coming up financially through the unemployment department?
So in terms of preparing students, there's nothing real specific there. There are some specific issues that can come up for people who are getting benefits while they go to school. And because a lot of the schooling now is virtual, it does provide a little bit more flexibility for us, where people may be more available for work, even though they're taking classes. But there really aren't any special programs in terms of providing direct financial benefits or assistance to students. But again, certainly we encourage people to take advantage of the information that we have on career resources and future job opportunities, so that people can kind of shape what they're studying and have in mind what the job opportunities might be in their area.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Reina. Next, we have Dick Hughes with the Hughesisms.
Thank you very much. These are quite helpful. My first question is, the legislative days are next week, and David, you'll be talking with legislators. What is it that you'll be telling them about the current situation, the good news and the not so good news, as far as the employment department?
That's a good question. I think we'll be sharing a lot of news because there is so much going on. I think the not so good news is that we still aren't where we want to be, which is where absolutely everyone has received all the benefits they're eligible for. And until that happens, that certainly is bad news, and we want to keep working as hard as we can to get all of those benefits paid out. there is quite a bit of good news considering the challenges that everyone is facing, including that we're continuing to make progress, and that even the wildfires that certainly weren't on our plan of how we were going to get caught up, that we're able to take that in stride, and that is not going to be a significant barrier to us getting either brand new benefits out to people impacted by the fire or to rolling out the other additional programs like the lost wages assistance. So I think there's a lot of good news about how we're moving forward with implementing programs and making progress. And a lot of the plans that we've done are showing real results. I think it's back to that core issue of we're still having so many people seeking benefits that even while we're making historic strides, it still feels painfully slow to us. And we know it's just excruciating to the people that are waiting for their benefits. So we're doing everything that we can. I think the other good news is that we have been able to not just keep, but build on the good momentum with the modernization so that we can use these experiences while they're fresh to really create the best contract and move forward with implementing a new system that will better suit Oregonians' needs.
Thank you. Then a somewhat related follow-up question. I'm interested in a little more about the Senate Bill 1701 implementation. If I recall correctly, and I may be off, it had been estimated that would take 200 hours or some large amount to implement. So I'm curious, how did you find the hours to get that done? And is everything else on track? Waiting week and whatever else there may be. I apologize that I can't remember all the things that you have on your technological plate.
Sure, there's a lot to keep track of. The big ones were the Lost Wages Assistance Program, which we are still on track with, and the waiting week. There's a whole bunch of still significant technology efforts that are needed to be done, but those are the big kind of outward-facing new program type of projects. In terms of how we were able to get Senate Bill 1701 done, it was an estimate, and I don't have the exact number, but I think it was around 200 hours, give or take. That was our estimate. Our teams know our systems well. Until you get in and actually start doing all of the coding, though, you can be surprised either in a good direction or a bad direction about how complex it is and how much effort it may take. One of the things that they were able to do to let us do this was with the Lost Wages Assistance Program especially, it's so new that there were a number of issues where there was work going on constantly, but parts of our technology team weren't having to work on that project. So for instance, we're required under the Lost Wages Assistance Program to set up completely new financial tracking systems to work with the state treasury and with the bank to do that. Our technology team has to accommodate that, but as parts of that were being worked on, they were able to jump in and do some of the work regarding Senate Bill 1701, and they were able to get that done quicker than anticipated. So I think it was a combination of it just being an easier lift than originally anticipated, which is always good news, and having those brief opportunities where they could jump in and work on chunks of the work so that we are able to get that rolled out a lot more quickly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dick. Next is Tracy Berry with Barrett, Fox, and Berry. KKMU.
Good afternoon. Hi, David. Quick additional question about wildfire evacuees and victims. Thing I'm wondering is some of the evacuees don't know whether their business or home office survived yet. So some might be in a bit of a gray area, maybe doing some work on their phone or other device while they're in temporary shelters or housing. And others might not know for a week or so whether they even have a business or a job left for them. So they're wondering, should they be filing now just to start the paperwork? What sort of advice would you give these folks?
Sure. So for people that are already receiving benefits or had recently been receiving regular unemployment or pandemic unemployment assistance, if they're not working now because of the fires, they should absolutely be filing, and they can just restart those prior claims. Or if they're eligible for a new claim for regular unemployment, they should go ahead and file. Even if it's a week or two, and then if they get good news and it turns out that they are able to resume work, it is a weekly benefit program. So we don't want anyone to lose out on any possible weeks of benefits. If people think they may be eligible, they should go to our website. There's more information that they can look at to see which programs they might be eligible for and how to apply. But we really encourage people to do that. We're working as fast as we can. We know it's not always fast enough, but we really don't want people to kind of pause themselves and make it a little bit longer before they can get the benefit. So the earlier they file, the quicker we'll be able to start working on their claims.
Terrific. Follow-up question, which is actually not related at all, but been seeing some stories coming out of California, employment officials there who've been concerned about what they think might be evidence of some attempted widespread fraud filings related to the PUA system and trying to make sure they vet those claims and block them. I know that in the past you've mentioned in very general terms that Oregon might have seen some evidence of that sort of activity as other states have. I'm curious whether you've seen any sort of surge of people trying to attempt filing fraudulent claims related to PUA, and if so, to what degree you've had to try and block and vet those.
Sure, and I will continue to be fairly general because I certainly don't want to give away the tools that we use to prevent and to identify that fraud when it's going on. We have there are always people, unfortunately, that are trying to take advantage of the system, and we have seen an increased rate of people kind of making more sophisticated attempts to defraud the system, especially the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, because it is such a new program and a lot of the safeguards that were built into regular unemployments over the course of decades aren't there. We use a number of tools to identify things that might be fraudulent on a claim. We have seen spikes of that throughout the course of the pandemic. We have been reacting pretty quickly to flag those claims, and we have been pretty successful at stopping payments on the ones that appear to actually be identity theft or some other type of criminal activity, most of the time before any payments have been made, and in other cases when there's still a very small amount of payment. So I think every state in the nation is seeing this kind of fraud and these kinds of attempts. We're working with the National Association. There are a number of tools. Oregon actually sits on the steering committee with the Integrity Center of Excellence for the National Association of State Workforce Agencies, and we've been early adopters of all of their tools to help us identify and prevent fraud. So it is an issue. We're continuing to see it, and we're continuing to work with law enforcement and others to combat it everywhere that we find it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tracy. Next, we have Tom Cusack with Oregon Housing Blog. Is Tom Cusack on the line?
Hello, can you hear me?
Just a reminder. Oh,
yes.
There you are. Yes.
Sorry, I was punching several buttons here. I had to figure out what I needed to do. I apologize. So I wanted to go back to something that was asked a few minutes ago. There was a question about good news, bad news. And when I went back a couple of weeks ago and looked at the recipiency rate for Oregon for July, I think that percentage was something like 70% of the people who were unemployed were actually receiving unemployment insurance. And that's about double what the percentage was at the start of the year, 35%. So my question was, in the Oregonian story today, it was an indication there was 162,000 unemployed in August. And my question is, do you have a feel for what percentage or what count of those people either are receiving unemployment insurance or are not receiving unemployment insurance?
So unfortunately, I have to go back to an answer I've had to give too often, which is I can't give real definite absolute numbers. We're continuing to really try to get the data to where we can share that. Normally, when we talk about just the regular unemployment insurance, it's much easier to give a picture of what's going on, how many people have filed and how many people have received benefits. With the additional benefit programs, particularly pandemic unemployment assistance, it's incredibly difficult for us to track things in a way that really gives a good picture of what's going on. So I think early on, we have shared that we knew that there were lots and lots of people that ultimately are now receiving or will receive pandemic unemployment assistance benefits who applied for regular benefits. Many of those people wouldn't have applied normally. And we have the reverse also, where a lot of people filed for pandemic unemployment assistance and are now receiving regular unemployment benefits. So being able to grab that snapshot of the total number of people who have applied for benefits and how many of them are receiving any benefits continues to be a challenge. I'm hoping that we'll have a little bit more data to share. We continue to make progress, but it is difficult to kind of parse that out. We do know that we're continuing to pay a higher percentage of people as we work through all the various challenges that can be preventing payments for some people. And I haven't looked at the particular numbers or don't have those in front of me for the recipiency rate. That's probably from the US Department of Labor statistics and likely reflects just the regular unemployment insurance benefits, which right now doesn't really tell the full picture because of those other benefit programs.
Okay, I want to follow up on a question unrelated to that first question, related to the DUA program. My recollection is there's a minimum payment, I think it's $210, and I sort of forget, can people file for that just based on their own self-certification and get the minimum amount?
Sure, so the disaster unemployment assistance, will be providing a lot more guidance as we roll that out. It's the program that pandemic unemployment assistance is based on. So if somebody is eligible for benefits, but they don't have any proof of their prior earnings, then they can receive that minimum payment amount. And for this disaster, that will be $210. Similar to PUA, the pandemic unemployment assistance, if they have documentation that shows higher earnings that entitle them to a higher benefit amount, then they may be eligible for more than that minimum weekly amount.
All right, thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Tom. And our last question for today will go to Rob Manning with OPB.
Hi, thanks, David, for doing this. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the disaster unemployment assistance program. And can you just give a little bit more of a sense of how that's different from regular unemployment benefits? Who should apply for DUA as opposed to, someone who, maybe is recently unemployed, maybe not clear if the wildfires are involved?
Sure. So if anybody is unemployed or underemployed, they should go onto our website. And again, we'll be putting more information. Normally, disaster unemployment assistance is there as kind of an additional safety net for people who can't get regular unemployment. So if somebody can't work right now, or they're working less because of the fires, they should file for benefits. If they are able to get regular unemployment, then we're required to pay them benefits under that program. So if somebody contacts us about disaster unemployment assistance and we look and determine that they're eligible for regular unemployment, we will move them to that program, and that's what they'll get benefits under. We have the extra complication right now where a lot of people that normally wouldn't be able to get regular unemployment insurance are already receiving pandemic unemployment assistance benefits. So if people are unemployed because of COVID-19 and they're receiving PUA benefits, they will likely continue to receive benefits under that program. So a lot of people that will be directly impacted and have already been impacted by the fires will be able to just get benefits under the programs that are already in place today: regular unemployment, the extension programs, pandemic unemployment assistance. DUA is really one more safety net for the people that aren't eligible for any of those programs. They may be eligible for disaster unemployment assistance. So it's hard to give one list of criteria for what program people might be in. So really encourage people to look at our website, and we'll continue to update that. And as we have in the past, it's not always a seamless process, but we'll do our best. If somebody applies for a benefit program and it turns out that they're eligible for another one, people will be moved to the correct program, and we can do that retroactively so people don't miss out on any benefits.
Thanks. And my other question, with regard to lost wages assistance, how quickly can people actually start seeing the $300 per week in, coming their way?
Sure. So that program is $300 for 6 weeks, and the time period that covers has already ended. In terms of when we're going to start making those payments and how quickly people can expect to see that, we do expect to start making those payments by the end of the month. We're still working away doing the computer work and the other work needed to get the payments issued. And I mentioned before that there can be good or bad surprises, but as of now, we still feel pretty confident that we'll be able to start making those payments to people before the end of this month.